See me? There we go. There we go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is incredibly impromptu, and I'm not as well versed as Ishi is with just suddenly on the fly hopping on camera. But I hope all of you are having a very happy Father's Day, and a huge happy Father's Day to all of you out there who may have kids, adopted kids, stepkids of your own. We love having good fathers out there. So just thank you all very much. God, that sounded so hi Eloise. Hey Marv. Hey Bromando. Happy Father's Day. And that's actually why I decided to come on the stream today. For those of you who may not know, it was a year ago yesterday that my father passed away. So I lost him pretty much on Father's Day. And it's been a year, and I've had some time to mourn, and I decided that now would be a great time to basically talk about him and his wonderful life, because he didn't talk much about what he did. And though I've said it a couple of times on the show, the amount that he contributed to the world, and well, basically, if I do say so myself, I had a superhero for a dad. I had an awesome hero, mad scientist for a dad, and I wanted to come on and share that with everybody. Thank you very much, Casca. Oh, thank you, Eloise. Barbecue sounds awesome, R1. Where do I begin? I'm just gonna ramble at you guys for a while, and then I'll pay closer attention to the chat. So I'm just gonna talk some bit. Like I said before, my dad was a mad scientist, if I can put it that way. He originally got started working in nuclear reactors. In fact, anytime something wonky happened, he'd have to suit up and go diving into the middle of a reactor to figure out what was wrong. This probably contributed to his cancer, on top of being a lifelong smoker. But I'm sure the chance of being irradiated didn't help much. In fact, there's a great story where, for those of you who don't know, before things like Geiger counters and other means of being able to tell if there's a radiation leak were cheaper, the easiest and best way to tell if you had been exposed to radiation was to keep on you a piece of film, of undeveloped film. And for those of you out there, that's the thing you used to take pictures before you had digital. But you'd have a piece of undeveloped film on you. Usually it was built into your badge. And then at the end of the week, you'd turn in your badge, and they would analyze the film and see if you had been exposed to radiation. And after a while, all of a sudden, like, he got a call saying, you need to get checked out by a doctor, like, right now. And he's like, why? And they're like, because you've been exposed to some massive amount of radiation. So he got checked out, and he's fine. And then they had this whole long battery of interviews to figure out where exactly it was that he had been exposed. And he talked, he's like, no, I was here, and through the facility that he was working in, which, by the way, is all filled in with concrete. The 405 freeway goes over this facility, for those of you who might want to know where it is. But you have to sign in everywhere you go. So there was a record of every place he had been. And this happened like week after week, where they're like, God, you're getting exposed to all this radiation. Where is this happening? And finally, they figured out what it was. And that was when my dad would come home from work, he'd take his badge off and he'd put it in his keys on top of our old huge television set, and there was a leak in the back of the television set that was leaking not like deadly radiation, but a radiation on a spectrum that was exposing the film. And so that's what was happening, was just he was putting his badge on the television. But the fact that this caused a near panic at his work, because they're trying to figure out where is this leak, especially because nobody else's badges were registering to it. So there's a fun story for you. Let's see. I'm just reading what people are saying. Is this why there's no golden Amazon last night? I do apologize. Yes, thank you, Bromando. I do apologize, everyone. There was no golden Amazon last night. No, Ishi wasn't feeling well. So, in fact, that's why Ishi is not here with me to tell stories, is because he is sleeping. He's been sleeping for most of the day. So, he'll be okay. But that's why there was no golden Amazon. I do apologize, everyone, that we did not post something about that. So thank you, Bromando, for reminding me to talk about that. So yeah, those of you out there may have heard me talk about how my childhood was real genius, and that is very much so the truth. One of my earliest memories of going to my dad to the lab is that opening scene in Real Genius where Mitch goes into the laser lab and sees the array set up, and them talking about how they couldn't get certain parts of the laser to work. That was my first memory of going to my dad's lab, and that was before I saw the movie Real Genius. And it was great because they had the array set up. They were doing some tests. I don't know what. I was like 5 or 6 years old. But they had it hooked up to a beam splitter, and they were bouncing it off the ceiling, and they were sending it to different parts of the building. And he fired it up for me and then turned off all the lights, and then took an aerosol can of air and sprayed it on the beam to show me the beam. And gave me basically my first physics lesson on how you can't see the light unless something's bouncing off of it, and just that was just so cool. He mainly made he after he got out of the reactor, thank God, he made optics for satellites. In fact, one of the satellites that he made an optic for, they had a model of it in the Museum of Science and Industry in Los Angeles. And it was always great to go to that display and go, yeah, that's my dad's satellite right there. Then from doing optics, he always did optics. But from optics, he moved into other areas. In fact, if you look up there, on the top wall there, the plaque, that is his patent for a spectrometer. I have his patent for his spectrometer. And underneath that is a picture of the vehicle that spectrometer was in. If you give me a second, I'll get you a better picture of that vehicle. If I have it over here. It's going to look very nondescript and very boring, but if you see you have the space shuttle there, and that's a funny story too. I'll tell you the story about the space shuttle in a second. But that truck that's there in front of the space shuttle, that is Tonka. I named Tonka when I was 4 years old. Tonka is what his spectrometer was in. And my dad's spectrometer was special in that it could sniff the air and see if you could see it, he could tell you what chemicals were in the air in a particular location. And they would use that to track chemical warfare agents and chemical plumes coming off of drug labs. They loaded up his spectrometer into a helicopter and flew it over the Twin Towers at 9/11 to watch the plumes from the coolant. And we hear about all these first responders, which is totally tragic. All these first responders who have come out of that disaster with cancer and other things like that. Part of it was the coolant that was coming out of the basement of the towers, that when it caught on fire, it went into the air. And when the powers that be figured out that that was something that was going to happen, my dad was in a helicopter telling the first responders, stay away from this area, don't work in that area, and trying to keep as many of them out of the extreme danger of those chemicals as much as possible, as much as you can in that sort of situation. But Tonka was the first vehicle that his spectrometer was loaded in, and they used it to bust drug dealers and just overall bad guys. And here is a picture of my dad on the inside of Tonka. He's sitting in what we called the captain's chair. He loved Kirk, absolutely loved Kirk. And, none of this looks very, we're used to high tech and very Hollywood looking things, but this was what he used to chase down these plumes. And here's another picture of him inside Tonka taking readings. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little broken up. Sorry. Give me a second. Do I have the plume? I do have the plume picture. Okay. So speaking of, one of the things that Tonka did, like I said, was track plumes from chemical warfare agents. And they did a lot of tests in White Sands, New Mexico, and in the desert here in Arizona. And a lot of it was they would drop ordnance that is inert. It's safe. It's not going to hurt anybody. But on a device like the spectrometer, also as far as how heavy the molecules are and how they react to the wind, would react the same way the really deadly and bad stuff would, like anthrax and other things like that. And there was one part in Desert Storm where they were testing. It's like, well, let's kill two birds with one stone. Let's load a bunker up with this inert stuff, and we're going to track the plumes and see where it goes. But we're also going to test one of our smart missiles and show how accurate one of our smart missiles are. We're going to launch it from. They launched it from the East Coast, I believe it was, and they were going to have it hit the target in White Sands, New Mexico, and I wish I had a picture of this, but I don't, unfortunately. But inside the bunker, after they had set up the test and they'd set up the cameras and everything, my dad's partner drew an X on the ceiling of the bunker with duct tape. And they pointed a camera up at that ceiling, and then they left. And so then they did the test. And this is the test missile hitting the target. Yes, this is a picture of that actual test. In my dad's effects, I found all these different pictures of all the different tests that he did. And I know for a fact that that's what this one is from. And I wish I had a picture of this, but I don't. There is video footage from that camera on the inside watching the missile center punch the dead center of the X that was drawn on the inside of the bunker. And we know for a fact that that footage got leaked to Saddam Hussein. And within a week, his saber rattling kind of shut up, and he kind of backed off from being a royal pain in the ass for at least a short while. So I get a little pride on the fact that my dad was part of the the project that scared the shit out of Saddam for at least 5 minutes. And another story about cool shit my dad did. I told you that I showed you the picture of the space shuttle, and I had a funny story about that. My dad was on the committee of scientists who were looking at the blueprints for the space shuttle, who would look it over, review it, give it the sign off. You hand it to the next person because this is billions and billions and billions of dollars. They want to make sure that it's right. But I mean, he was at the bottom of the totem pole of people who were going to get a hold of these blueprints and look them over. So hundreds of people, doctorates and physicists and engineers and all this other stuff had already taken a look at these blueprints, and my dad got a hold of them, and within an hour or two of looking it over, immediately called whoever it was who was the head of the project. It was like, there's an error on these blueprints. And they're like, well, what do you mean? He says, okay, the manipulator arm on the back of the space shuttle, we've all seen Space Camp, the manipulator arm thing. The pin that was going to hold it to the shuttle was too big for the hole it was designed for. That would have been billions of dollars down the tube because somebody didn't measure a goddamn pin. And my dad found it. And here we go. Come on. This is his award for finding that pin. He also got a really hefty bonus too, but I have his award here showing or commemorating the fact that he found that error. So I don't know. I'm very proud of my dad. I know that there are tons of stories out there that he could never tell us. And I know that there are stories that I've forgotten, but I am very proud of what he did and what he accomplished in his life. He never wanted praise. He never wanted attaboys. He didn't want, he loved to tell a story, but he never really wanted recognition for what he did. And I think the best thing that I can do is just to talk about him. So yeah. Again, there's probably more I could say, but to me, other people have memories of going and doing things with their dads, and I do have memories of going and doing things with him. I have memories of going to Knott's Berry Farm, or memories, definitely a lot of memories going to museums, but my fondest memories are going to work with my dad, or just him telling stories of work and what that was like. Him showing me video footage of them going out to the middle of the desert, and him joking about how he got paid by the government to cook methamphetamines. And he showed me this entire video, sponsored by the government, training video showing exactly step by step how to cook methamphetamines. How to cook meth, what chemicals to use, where you can get the chemicals, where you get clean versions, where you get off the shelf that's going to need to be, not need, where you probably should clean it, and most drug dealers don't. This was Tuesday for him. So anyway, So what do people have to say today? Again, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there who are just joining me. You all are awesome, and you do make an impact in your kids' lives. So thank you very much. So what do people have to say? Marv. Yeah. I love my dad, but he had some codependency stuff with my abusive mom. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That's tough. No, seriously, that's really tough. And I'm sorry that that you had to have that kind of a childhood, but I'm glad that you love your dad. You know, that's wonderful. Let's see. Mike, when she feels better, tell him to check his email. I will do that. Marv, he really should have left her and got us out, but in the cult, divorce is never acceptable unless the other person cheats on you. Abuse is not even considered good enough to separate. Oh, no, that's tough. No, I'm sorry that you had to stay in that third situation. Hey, Delver. Let's see. Bromando, those nuclear physicists have such short lives, almost half lives. Indeed they do. Let's see. Delver, that's a glorious Hawaiian shirt your dad is wearing. Yeah, my dad loved Hawaiian shirts. One of my dad's favorite shows was Magnum. So there you go. He also used to build cars. And although no, he never had the Magnum car, but my dad did have a Lotus that he built. And yes, he did get the car 120C as the license plate. And he had that license plate long after he lost the Lotus. But yes, and for those of you who don't know, that is a reference to the show The Prisoner. Great show, brilliant, highly recommend it. Bromando, no, don't feel bad, Bromando. That's okay. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's all good. Yeah, as Trenton says, sometimes gallows humor is good, and indeed it is. You know, it's actually gallows humor is very therapeutic. Yeah, and I know that you didn't mean it in a mean way. So, JC, your dad sounds like a hell of a guy. He was awesome. Again, he always had a story to tell. Yeah, he always had fun little anecdotes or just quirky, amusing things that he could share. That and I never saw him offended. You could make jokes about whatever the hell you wanted around him, and he really didn't care. And I think that's because with the environment that he was in every day, he had perspective. That just there are some things that aren't worth getting pissed off about. So, let's see. Long Leg Larry, do we have kids? We have two cute little rats named Vegeta and Chaozu. So, Ishi is a rat dad, I guess. Well, he doesn't consider himself a rat dad, and I don't really consider myself a rat mom. But they definitely are kids. They act like little 7-year-olds, and we scold them when they are naughty, and put them in their rooms when they're being naughty. But we take them out, we play with them, and they're our friends and our companions. So yeah, Ishi is a rat dad. Mm-hmm. So let's see here. I think I ran out of. JW, you never have enough time with your father. All of it is memories now, and it never feels like I can keep it all alive in me. I definitely feel that way, but I don't know. I'm odd. Like I said, my parents got divorced when I was 3, so I saw my dad because of visitation. I only had weekends with him. I never had weekdays. I never knew what it was like to actually live with him. And then when I was in college, he and my brother moved to the East Coast. So I didn't even have like holidays anymore with them. I had phone calls. I had phone call on birthdays and phone call on Thanksgiving. Occasionally phone call on Christmas. And I don't know, maybe it's because I realized as a kid that the reality was I was never going to have a quote normal relationship with him. I treasure every moment that I had with him, but I also don't regret not having more, especially when I got to be an adult. It's like his life was over there and mine was on the West Coast, and that was just reality again. And I don't know. I am very thankful that when he was diagnosed with cancer, my aunt was very sweet and paid to have me go and visit him a couple of times. I had some really good vacations with him, and I'm very grateful that she did that, because I think I was in denial at that point. It was still business as usual in my brain, and I do think I would probably not be as well adjusted as I am now, if it wasn't for the fact that she gave me more opportunities to be with him. So, if you're a dad and you have kids and there's divorce, use up as much of your visitation as you possibly can. It will mean a lot to your kids when they're an adults. Let's see. Marv, I love rats, but they are so short-lived. Not sure I could handle saying goodbye so soon. That right there is August, or all I have left of August. August is, my heart rat. Ishi's talked about Zed. August was my heart rat. August was a rescue. Somebody literally threw him away. It breaks my heart even now to think about it. They found a cage that he had been living in that he had gnawed out the bottom of. So that tells you how much of a trooper was. This was at Pacific Beach in San Diego, and he was living off of scraps, handouts, and trash. And he walked up to somebody, this really cool, truckers are awesome, who was eating his food, and the trucker realized this isn't a wild rat, this is a pet, and scooped him up and was going to take him home. But the trucker had dogs that wanted to play with the rat, so he turned August over to the rat shelter that they have in San Diego. Yes, there is a rat shelter. And he turned him over to them, and that's where we adopted him from. Poor little guy had scars on his back where he had gotten into a fight with something. So he had actual claw mark scars on his back, and he was missing about 1.5 inches of his tail. But he was still the sweetest little guy. And he would come up and give me kisses on the lips. Yes, he liked to kiss. And it broke my heart when we had to put him down, because, as you said, they don't live long enough. So I don't mean for this to be a downer, you guys. I'm sorry. I totally don't mean for this to be a downer. Let's see here. Acid trip. By the way, my dudes, that ghetto Waffle House adventure turned out to be worth it in the end. Got some good points from the managers and scored a girl's phone number. She's a fellow server there. Awesome. Yay. Win-win. Catherine, my dad's favorite joke. If you said you were bored, he would respond with, "What are you, a 2x4?" You gotta love dad jokes. That you do. Dad jokes are the best. Dad jokes are the absolute best. No, actually, just going back to my dad, and he always had a story to tell. Growing up in Los Angeles, you can't, chuck a rock without hitting somebody who's been involved in Hollywood in some form or another. You really can't out there. And I never really realized that until I moved away from Los Angeles, because, there, if you said, oh, I know somebody who worked on this movie, or I was on screen for half a second in this film that no one's ever going to see, or I'm working to get my SAG card. I'll have it in 10 years. Everybody either has done that or knows somebody who has worked in Hollywood. And I just remember being on the Universal Studios tram tour before they revamped it. As far as I know, everything that I remember of the tram tour is gone now. But they had a section that was devoted to the original Battlestar Galactica, specifically the movie / mini series, the segment that became the first 3 episodes of the TV show and original TV show. And for those of you who have seen it, there's a bar scene with a woman that has multiple faces. Well, a guy my dad and my mom went to high school with, Craig Reardon. Craig was interning under Stan Winston at the time, and Stan Winston's team had been hired to do the effects for, or the prosthetics and stuff for Battlestar Galactica. So Craig was tasked with doing this dancing woman in her faces, and he could not get the mouths to sync up to work right. And so my dad, on spec, just because it was something to do over the weekend, helped Craig Reardon out, and they together rigged up that scene of the woman singing with the 3 mouths going at the exact same time for Battlestar Galactica. My dad is uncredited, but he did assist with that. So that's cool. Incidentally, Craig Reardon is the guy who did the effect of the piece of meat moving across the counter in Poltergeist. So that was my dad's friend. So it's always cool to see that. Anyway, I'm sure I could do this all day where random things remind me of random stories of my dad's. But anyway, let's see here. Dominic, let me actually put things on the screen. I'm used to Ishi doing that. Dominic, my old man and I used to be relatively close. He did a lot for the family, from teaching us right from wrong and how to defend ourselves to get us involved in extracurricular activities. Your old man sounds awesome, dude. I have no alcoholic beverage to raise to him, but he sounds pretty damn awesome. Oh, that reminds me. I wanted to tell a story, not about my dad. Where's the picture? Have a picture over here. Watch, I'll find it after the camera goes off. There it is. I wanted to tell a story about, this is my grandfather. My grandfather Arturo, or Artie. And I wanted to bring him up because, well, look at this handsome man right here. he was a badass. He also died of cancer. He passed away when I was 3, so that puts it in 85, I believe. And basically, he had a Gran Torino moment where he's on an oxygen tank. He can barely move. And he had been the neighborhood watch for the neighborhood that they all lived in Inglewood. And some neighbors came and knocked on the door and said, look, we just thought you need to be aware. There are some drug dealers moving in down the street. And they're like, we know you can't do anything about it right now, but you and your family need to be aware of the fact that these drug dealers are moving in, that this neighborhood's probably not going to be safe much longer. And what he did was he went and he got his gun, one of them. I think it was a 45 actually that he got. And he knew that he had 15 minutes that he could breathe on his own if he was to unhook himself from his oxygen tank. So that's what he did. He unhooked himself from the oxygen tank. He walked down the street with his gun, knocked on the door, and when the guy came to the door, he put his gun to the guy's head, said exactly who he was, where he lived, that he had cancer, and that he really didn't give a fuck, and that this guy and all of his friends needed to get the hell out of this neighborhood within 24 hours. Otherwise, he was going to be back. They cleared out that night. He single-handedly cleared them out that night. And no, they didn't come back. My grandfather passed away about a week and a half later. But I mean, that's just such a badass story, I just picture my grandfather channeling Clint Eastwood in that. Let's see here. Neostar, have you guys seen the IDW Ninja Turtle comics? You get to see a lot of the post-mutation Splinter in action in the first few issues. No, I haven't seen it actually. God, I don't remember the last time I saw an actual physical comic book, or at least one that I wasn't reading for Adventures in Awful. I don't know when the last time that was. So, but that's pretty cool. My favorite scene, honestly, is in the original Ninja Turtles film with the little Splinter in his cage doing kung fu. That's like the best scene ever. Oh, see what Ishii is talking about. This thing likes to jump. Let's see here. Dungeon Delver. My pop was Southern Iron and Alabama Brickwork, USAF vet. Thank you, that is awesome. Thank you to him for his service. Stood to the watch 1960 to 62. Lived long enough to meet all his granddaughters. Cancer took him at age 71 in 2011. God rest him. Totally. Oh, sounds like an awesome guy. I'm glad that he got to see his granddaughters. Star Storyteller. That's awesome. Not only did he leave a legacy, but he actually did help the neighborhood. Yeah, he was good that way. My grandfather is one of the true men of the West. He was. Okay. So cool. Basically, I just wanted to come on and shoot the shit and do a remembrance of awesome dads today. Again, if any of you are a father or a father figure to somebody, thank you very much for being in that person's life. Yeah, that I know that you've affected somebody in a positive way. So we may or may not be on again later this evening. It all depends on how Ishii is feeling. Hopefully he will be feeling better, but I will pass everybody's messages on to him. And I do apologize again that um, uh, we weren't on last night and we didn't post something about that. It was a last minute decision. Yesterday, Ishii did not get up until about an hour and a half before showtime. And we decided that it would be best to, for quality of show to not go on yet yesterday. So, oh, people are posting things. Let me. Let's see. Storyteller. My dad has his issues, but he was honest about them, and he was very protective of all of us, including a foster sister. That's cool. That's very cool. Papa on my mom's side fought World War I, got gassed, ended up being a cook for John J. Pershing's. My dad's dad was a miserable piece of shit. My father, and that's your father's opinion. Oh, thank you, Dungeon Delver. Oh, geez. Well, I don't know if this makes you feel any better, but my great grandfather on my father's mother's side, he went to San Quentin for thievery, and then got into the smuggling gig in the Philippines, and it's because of him that my grandmother was a POW. So there are winners and there are losers, just like there are with moms and just people in general. Oh, thank you, everyone. Again, I'll let Ishii know that you're thinking about him. So I've been on for nearly an hour, and I'm sure a lot of you have, either families you want to get to, or barbecues, or dinners, or other things like that. Oh, Delver. Next time I'm on, I will tell you the Star Wars figure story my mom told me after my dad passed away. It's so sweet, it'll break your heart. Oh, yes, I want to hear that. I want to hear about that story. I'm having visions, and yes, it's already breaking my heart. Okay. But yeah, okay. I'm running out of steam, and I'm not as good as coming up with things on the fly as Yushi is. So I hope all of you have a wonderful Sunday. Stay safe, sleep well, and again, we may or may not be on later this evening, but I will. I'll see you all later, and take care now. Thank you, everyone.